Morning, welcome back. Today we're going to look at chopping in a hinge, but more importantly we're going to chop in a hinge today with a router. Okay, so there's many different ways to chop in a hinge, and we're going to look at a little bit more of time management and speed and how we can do things a little bit quicker. So I've chosen a router. First things first, before you do anything, make sure the tool is isolated. Okay? So I'm going to talk about marking out the door. We're sort of going to show you that in another clip, but I've got a demonstration piece here. All I've done with the leaf of the hinge is I've carefully marked the top and the bottom, and I've put some clear arrows as to where the top and the bottom of the hinge is going to be. And I've also put a small mark there as to the width of the leaf of the hinge as well. Okay? And that is quite literally all the marks that you need. I've obviously done it with a marker pen, so it's easier to show, but make sure you've got a nice, sharp, crisp pencil. Another little tip, something you might like to do, is along those lines of the leaf of the hinge, you might want to get a sort of sharp blade and just score the fibres of those timbers, so it's a little bit easier and avoid any breakout. So, setting up the router, nice and easy. First things first is I want to set the depth of the cutter to suit the thickness of my hinge. All I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I've got a fairly flat surface. I'm going to plunge the router down until the cutter hits the flat surface, and I'm going to use that locking pin at the back to lock it off. Okay? Now around this side, I'm just going to hold it up so you can see, in there we've got a depth stop. All I'm going to do there is put the hinge in that depth stop, push it fairly tight, just lock up that thumb turn. Okay? That should pull out of there, and then if I was to plunge that router down that little bit further and lock it off, okay, I can see that my router cutter is protruding just enough to recess that hinge in. So once that's set, I need to think about setting the fence to the width. So I've got the advantage of putting this piece of timber in a vise. If you're on a door, I'd advise your door is nice and firmly wedged into a block or something nice and secure. So once again, I'm going to push my cutter down onto a flat surface and lock it off. I'm going to slide the fence into the slot. I can just turn that cutter around until I can see the furthest point of the cutter, and I'm just going to slide that over to my pencil mark, which is the width of my leaf. Just going to tighten up those thumb turns there as well. And all I'm going to do is plunge that back down so it's set to the depth, and that's ready to go. Okay, make sure I've got everything in place. I'm going to take this off so I've got no dangly sort of parts near the router. Plug the router in. Make sure I've got my PPE. As I'm using the cutter, using the router, I'm going to start making sure that the cutter is away from whatever I'm cutting, and then I'm just going to slowly push that in, and then bring the router towards me, back out again, and then clear out the middle. I'm going to make sure that I am a good sort of 2, 3, 4 mil away from these pencil lines. talking about speed initially, straight away you can see it's a lot quicker. And also you'll notice I didn't take my hands off the router until it stopped spinning. Okay. As you can see from there, I've still left a little bit in. All I'm going to do now, chisel that out by hand, and then good old Blue Peter fashion,